Are you ready, kids? Ready to dive into the world that is Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. Hundreds of hours full of the highest highs and the brickiest bricks are in front of you. But fear not, that's what I am here for. Before this video is over, I am sure you will be the best prepared you can be for your upcoming TCG journey. Here are the 5 most essential tips for Yu-Gi-Oh! beginners. And with that, welcome back to Skip Turn Yugioh. I'm your host Marvin, and today we're going to take a look into how you can become as great of a Yugi player as I am.
Why the fuck you lying?
I know a lot of you will have started to dabble around with Master Duel and will have experiences with Yu-Gi-Oh! before, but I want to put a strong emphasis on the evolution one can make in the real-world trading card game or TCG, as I think this is probably the best way Yu-Gi-Oh! can be played. And that's exactly why we will start with virtual play. Our first step in becoming a real Yu-Gi-Oh! duelist is starting with simulators. As I mentioned before, doing a bit of Master Duel, which is the officially licensed product by Konami, is some very good and casual fun. And it will also teach you all the rules that you will need to know about the game if those are new to you. The issue is that Master Duel perpetrates a lot of unhealthy playing habits and is also on an own ban list. What you can pick up on there is not one-to-one applicable to real life, and that's why I prefer moving away from it after the first couple of sessions, merely because there are better options for you to learn. Later on, once you're in full capability of the TCG, of course nobody is stopping you from playing Master Duel as much as you want. Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG can be played virtually in a lot of ways. Simulators like EDO Pro are a very potent way here. These usually include all the necessary cards, more often than not even the unreleased stuff, and nothing is behind a paywall. Every deck you can think of is playable here. The good thing with simulators are that they can aid you when learning a deck. Circles and indicators show whenever an action is able to be executed, and especially at the start, that is worth its free-to-play money. Try building a deck first and then play some matches against AI. They may not be the brightest of the bunch, but it is closer to the TCG than anything you will do in Master Duel ever. And thus, great practice for you. Alternatively, getting friends on this platform you can play against will help you just as good, if not better. But at a certain point, even these simulators hit barriers and can constitute suboptimal behaviors. That's why you should check out something else. For my second point of advice for upcoming duelists, I will tell you a bit about Dueling Book. Ah, the good old Dueling Book. Many of my more fleshed-in TCG players will know what I mean. It's a curse and a blessing. Dueling Book is a website that, just like EDO Pro, features most of the released and some of the unreleased cards as well. That is as many similarities as you will find though. Dueling Book is a platform where the player makes all the actions, calls effects, builds chain links, and summons their monsters. A truly much more advanced task than dueling on EDO Pro. Oh, and there are no AI opponents here. You will have to duke it out with friends or random strangers on ladder or in casual games. The important part of Dueling Book is the fact that everything runs through the player, not having indicators or big shiny edges which tell you the next legal action and leaves the door open for you to make valuable mistakes. These mistakes will be the basis of your evolution as a duelist. Look, I'm not sitting here telling you DB is the perfect practice platform, because it really isn't. And hit the sub button if you ever want to know the full reasons why. But it is probably the best we have. Alternatively, there are other platforms as well, like Omega Yu-Gi-Oh! That offers similar services, but with a much smaller player base. In DB, you pretty much always find a match within seconds or minutes. And most importantly, some people online actually have human decency and correct misplays without any ill will. Free advice? We love that. You just have to watch out for your sanity when you eventually run into some nutter on their mission to become rank 1 DB worldwide. That will really not be a fun experience for you. And keeping all of this in mind, it is still not the best way to practice. For our third tip on how to start off as a Yu-Gi-Oh! beginner, I will tell you one of the hard truths this game entails. Practice is not always pleasant, it is not always stress-free, but playing as much as possible, especially in real life, is essential. Locals, regionals, YCSs, hell, meet up with 5 crackies at your grandma crib and break out the old Yu-Gi-Oh! cards. Only like that will you be able to progress. But why not stick to Dueling Book or EDO then when practicing? Isn't that enough? Nope, and here's why. Konami sanctioned events follow a very strict rulebook. the tournament policy. And while it is one of the worst assortments of rules ever printed, at least in my eyes, it is the guideline. Everything from time rules to accepted behavior is written down here and carried out by judges over these Konami-sanctioned events. You will never understand the struggle of scooping a game early to save some time or getting a warning for something illegal if you don't experience it in the flesh. Furthermore, the human component is some of the most important when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! When playing DB or EDO, you're all relaxed at home, sitting around, chilling your balls off. In person, you can have confrontational opponents that make you very uncomfortable, people that put you outside your comfort zone and will teach you how to maneuver in tricky situations where time is ticking low or you play from a comeback angle. Only if you follow this and try to visit as many real-life events as possible, you will become a seasoned Yugi veteran. But I understand time and space exists. So, there is a workaround for real-life events. For our number 4, we will take a look at remote dueling. You know, where you stream your gameplay and so does your opponent, preferably. While I can immediately hear some of you groaning, I feel like remote dueling is mighty underrated, especially when it comes to content creators. Thus, you never really hear from it or see it on a regular basis. But the potential player base of it is massive. I'll tell you a tale about a guy I once met during an online local. This guy was cool, calm, and collected, and gave me a really good run for my money before beating me in a close match. Afterwards, we started chatting, and he tells me he never played Yu-Gi-Oh! Against someone in real life, face to face. I was dumbfounded and asked why that was. This person lived in the middle of nowhere. Not quite the I Am Legend movie, but the closest you'll get to it in Central Europe. With a 9 to 5 and some form of things to do, you'll simply not be able to go a lot if you are 2 hours away from your next card shop. So he chose remote dueling instead, which really appealed to him. The positives of remote dueling are really convincing. It is quick to do, pretty cheap nowadays as well. Probably get a setup with camera and a meager headset for under 50 bucks. And most importantly, it does not require you to go there in person, thus saving a lot of time. The downsides, however, are pretty obvious as well. If I have my cards laying beside me, what keeps me from just lunging over and getting that one blowout card I need? Pretty much only my pride and morals. And my will to learn, of course. For me, it's an absolute no-go, and I look at it like this. In remote dueling, you pretty much never get anything aside from knowledge or wisdom. There's no elo attached to it, mostly. No winner prizes and no qualification for gigantic events. And with nothing on the line, I would feel so dumb just cheating. But do you really know if your opponent thinks the same? Having said that, I personally almost never feel like I get cheated in remote duels. Not more than in real life at least. And that's why I enjoy it so much. If you're interested in joining in on the fun, but you don't know anyone who would remote duel with you, then Nifska's Discord server is probably the best place for you to have nice and civil dueling, and they even have a remote ranked ladder to play on. But coming to my last point, it is probably the most important lesson I can give you right now. For number 5, I have a very specific request and I hope you listen to me. Don't become a flunder player. I mean, don't only become a flunder player. The biggest mistake I made when I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Was that I became a one-trick pony and I was almost afraid of playing other decks. So be different than me. When starting off with Yu-Gi-Oh!, you will eventually find your playstyle and a deck which fits that. This can come by way of testing, watching content creators like my banger deck profiles, or simply by how cool you find the artworks to be. This, your first deck, will most likely start to form some form of bond with you, like the first shitty car you ever saved from the junkyard to drive around in. And you will play lots of it, and you will start to feel comfortable with it. And then you will start to hit a brick wall. One of the many untold truths about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that you only really learn a deck when you play it a bit. With an abundance of available cards to play, it is foolish to narrow down your view to only one deck, especially because of the knowledge you gain by diversifying your deck roster. If you watched my microsharking video, you will have heard me talk about knowledge and how hard it is to just know everything today. But bottom line is, if you want to be a good player, you just have to know as much as possible. And that only works if you play a lot and know a lot about other decks. However, you can of course stick to the deck you like playing most. In my eyes, it's just important to put some time in with the top meta decks in order to gain knowledge or to really see what they're trying to achieve. Know what they do and then beat it by choosing your weapon. That's from the Art of War. Surely. If for nothing else, playing multiple decks will make you a lot more aware of getting sharked. I talked about that in the microsharking video I mentioned 2 seconds ago, so I will link it here now as well. Be sure to give it a click now, and until next time, cheerio. bozos.